Kathleen Somers, a debut author, also Bachelor of Fine Arts from Temple University's Tyler School of Art, and works as a freelance graphic designer and copywriter. She is a passionate observer of humanity who believes in the power of connection that comes from each of us sharing our individual stories and the importance of authenticity when doing it. When Caitlin isn't busy with her career as a creative, she is out on her bike finding new roads to explore or spending time with her son, opening his eyes to everything the world has to offer, both big and small. She lives with her family in the suburb of Philadelphia. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my joy, pleasure, and excitement to have on the show today Kathleen Somers and Cindy Breck co-hosting me in the interview. Welcome on the show, Kathleen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Peter, for having me. It's a pleasure.
And it is definitely nice
It's
meeting you,
nice meeting you
Kathleen.
too, Cindy.
Absolutely. It's lovely we are here to finally sit and talk about your amazingly written Barely Visible, whose description I found on the internet to be quite amazing and well great. And actually, I'd like you to tell us what inspired you, to sit down to craft this story. I mean, how does it come to you? How does it come to be? If you can run us through the foundation, through the making of the novel, that would be great, really.
So in 2007, my son Jack was formally diagnosed by a pediatric neurologist with Asperger's syndrome. And those words are not used anymore because in 2013, Asperger's syndrome was rolled into autism spectrum disorder. So in
Mm,
today's language, he's considered high functioning autistic.
mm,
In 2007, no one was talking about autism. There was no social media, there were no Facebook groups. The resources that exist today were not available. None of the therapists whose help we sought out had any idea how to help us.
mm,
So, simultaneously with receiving this diagnosis, my son was undergoing dozens of evaluations at school, all of his teachers, the school psychologist, the nurse. And they were in agreement that yes, he needed accommodations. In the classroom setting, he was struggling. He was failing to meet goals that he should have been meeting. He was disruptive. He couldn't sit still. He was aggressive towards other kids. So
mm.
we developed an individualized education plan, which followed him all through his school years. But as far as this diagnosis went, there too, they were in agreement that we don't think he has this. These were the people that were seeing him every day. They were seeing him almost as much as we did. And they had known him for years because he was in the same school system. So they knew him from, when he was 4 years old. Um, we trusted these people. And here they're saying to us, we don't think he has this. We're going to dismiss that diagnosis. So, what do you think we did? We dismissed it. We thought, whatever this thing is, it'll go away. Eventually, he'll grow out of it. We just ignored it and we went on with life. At the time, he was about 7 years old. Thankfully, we discovered organized sports. He quickly fell in love with basketball, soccer. He became obsessed with baseball. And it was obvious right from the start that he was gifted athletically. And we thought, this is great. It's giving him an outlet for his energy. He's interacting with other kids in a team setting. Sports were keeping him contained. And it provided this illusion that our days were moving along normally. He would get up in the morning, go off to a regular school, attend regular classes. At the end of the day, he came home. We went off to practice a game, sometimes both. And we thought, okay, we've got a handle on this. Everything's going to be okay. But it wasn't okay. As he started to get older, circumstances changed, but the challenges followed right along with us.
Mm,
He moved into middle school, and kids' personalities are becoming more fully formed. They're starting to choose friends as opposed to, just playing with all the kids in your class. And he had no concept of how to interact with his peers. He thought any kid that would come over for an afternoon and spend the afternoon playing with him, never want to come back again. He thought that kid was his best friend. So he just had no concept of social interaction. Things were happening physically too. I mean, this kid was fully devoted to baseball. Every moment of his downtime was spent in the batting cages, taking lessons, like trying to be the best baseball player he could be. He was the starting pitcher on every team. He was one of the best batters. And then one day he walks out onto the field and suddenly he has no idea how to throw the ball or how to hold his bat.
Wow.
And the coach comes to us and he's like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "We have no idea." When a coach comes to you 9 or 10 times and is asking the same question, suddenly you start asking yourself, "What's going on?" And we thought, wow, maybe it's that thing that we didn't talk about, that thing that we swept under the rug, the thing we ignored. We had no idea that autism would rob him of gross motor skills.
Mm.
So we started walking this very thin line. It's, do you say something to a coach or a teacher or a prospective employer? If you do, what do you say? Because you have no idea what you're talking about. Or do you not say anything and hope that the wheels don't fall off the bus? And that's how we were moving through our days. I know that raising a high functioning child is not as difficult as raising a nonverbal one, but being high functioning comes with its own set of challenges, and there's no one size fits all solution to those challenges. And that led to many, many years of being overwhelmed, being exhausted, being frustrated. Because when things appear normal on the surface, it's easy to just overlook the challenge, sweep it under the rug, and hope that everything will be okay. So, what inspired me to share our story is that I know there are other parents out there with high functioning children. Maybe they haven't even been diagnosed and they're facing challenges that they don't know how to handle. If they can step inside my world for 5 minutes and see all the mistakes I made, hopefully learn the lessons now versus learning them 15 to 20 years later, like I did, then maybe they'll feel a little less alone, because I know that while I was raising my son, I felt very alone. So that was the inspiration for wanting to share our story.
Wow.
Hands down, I absolutely commend you. I can right away when Peter read your bio, I heard the advocate that you are for your son in that bio, but I hear your heart in what you're saying here. And I personally, I mean, I have it on both sides of my family. I have a low functioning, profound nephew that has issues, and then my niece has the hemispheres of her brain are not connected, so she cannot do things, but she has conquered things that they never thought she'd walk or anything. But this is the whole thing. You're right. In so many ways, you are left in a situation where you're alone. You don't know what to do because you don't really know what you're dealing with. And
Exactly.
so much of this stuff, I mean, because I mean, my background is in recreational therapy. Some of this stuff just like kind of just comes out of the middle of nowhere, like in 2007, and then things switch in 2013. And it's like you're trying to grasp the reality of this. But I could only imagine because I have not personally dealt with it other than with my niece and my nephew. But I feel your heart. And I have to say, congratulations to you for putting pen to paper and putting voice to this to help other people. Because I would want somebody like you to help me if I were in that situation. And Barely Visible on Amazon is what's going to give voice to this to help others not feel the distance and the loneliness. So kudos to you for putting that forth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I can't tell you how many connections I've made. Complete strangers heard me on a podcast or saw an ad for my book and have come to me and said, your son sounds a lot like my son. And their children are much younger now. But asking me, would you talk to me?
Mhm.
Of course, because I didn't have that.
Yeah. But you're a walking testimony for your son, and you're a walking testimony for those people around you and stuff like that. Now, I want to dive into something, the richness, because I think this is very important to the impact your book leaves. And that is the themes, the subject lines. When somebody picks up that book, what are they going to get? So if you could share a little bit about that, I would appreciate that.
So, without question, the number one theme throughout the book is appearance. My son will be 25 next month. He is physically beautiful. As we speak right now, he is in New York City at an international modeling competition that you can only attend by invitation.
Wow.
So, on the surface, he's beautiful. Last December, he graduated from college. He drives a car. He has a job. He still plays sports. On the surface, he looks like every other young adult beginning their journey in the real world. Yet he is not like every other young adult. He processes the world in a totally different fashion.
Mm.
Communication is a big issue. He takes everything verbatim. If you say you're going to be home at 6 and 6:01 arrives and you're not home yet, he's on the phone. Where are you, Mom?
Yeah.
On the flip side, he says what he means, regardless of how it might make you feel. I mean, he speaks his mind. We joke about having no filters. Truly, he doesn't have filters. He is 100% authentic.
Mm.
He's got sensory issues, especially with heat. Like if he were to be in a meeting, a business meeting, and the room suddenly turns warm, he would just get up and walk out without any explanation. That kind of behavior is not what people expect.
Hmm.
So they see this young man who looks like every other young man, yet he behaves in ways that imply that he is selfish, rude, poorly disciplined, you name it. So that is without question the underlying theme. And then there's also this theme of baseball. Like I said, he became obsessed, and it dominated our lives for more than a decade.
Mm.
And it's amazing how many analogies you can make between baseball and having a disability and just all the struggles that we went through. So I feel like that's one of the elements that enabled me to help write the story. It was a vehicle
Hmm.
to carry the storyline.
Wow. I must say that that is such an, I mean, I've been enjoying and loving your response to this question so far. The answer you've given so far, quite exciting and quite amazing. And from the old name, Asperger's syndrome, to autism spectrum disorder, and having an eye functioning kid, I think that's really something, quite a lot, really. Thank you. Thank you for your amazing responses to this question. Thank you. And I also I would like to ask you too, because can you tell us back to when you first started noticing something different about your son? Apart from the coach feedback, apart from, all of the coach feedback that keep coming over and over again, what were some of the early signs that made you pause and wonder? Now, I'm beginning, there's another one that come to my mind. Was it from the initial stage? Like, when did you discover all of this? Was it when he was maybe 5 years old or a little bit older than that? Was there any changes from when he was young, a teen, till something begin to change? I mean, if you can run us through the process of discovery, I think that's what I would love to put it. The process of
Hmm.
discovery, and the early signs you've experienced in that.
So you used the word early. The signs were there early on, only
Mm.
we did not understand at all. As a baby, he was a happy baby, smiling all the time, content. Around the age of 18 months old, he was fine at home, but anytime we stepped into public, something went wrong. He became a different child. Interaction with a stranger would almost always elicit some sort of negative response from him And there was no predicting it. There was no knowing what the response would be. We had no awareness of what was happening.
Mm.
He might reach out to another kid and hit him just unexpectedly. And that was not the child that he was at home. He was very loving, very happy. So, we noticed that, but we just wrote it off as the terrible twos. We thought, he's a toddler. We didn't know any
Yeah.
different. It was our
Mhm.
first child, we knew
Yeah.
nothing. Um, and actually, it was my mother who pointed it out because she had raised five children.
Oh.
So, when he became 3, 4 years of age, he started developing all of these quirky, obsessive behaviors, and each behavior would last for a period of time. He would become hyper focused on an activity, and they were strange activities. It wasn't like playing with cars or, it was very adult-like activities. He went through a pots and pans phase where every morning he needed to pull every pot and pan out of the cabinet, and he would sit for hours and pretend that he was cooking. And then all of a sudden that stopped and it became something else. And then he became fixated on clothing. He went through, we called them his phases. He had a wristwatch phase where every day he had to wear a watch. And if he put it on his left hand and we went out in public and he saw someone with their watch on the right hand, we had to stop and switch it, which became kind of complicated if you go into the city or somewhere where there are a lot of
Mhm.
people. At 4 years of age, he asked me to buy him a three-piece suit. And I thought, oh, how cute. So I bought him a three-piece suit. Well, he needed to wear the three-piece suit everywhere we went, even if we were just running to the supermarket. So he, at the time, he's 3, 4 years of age. He's cute. We think it's funny. We think it's just quirky. Oh, he's an odd little kid. Those behaviors just changed with the circumstances. So come 10 years of age, now at this point, at 10 years of age, he's been diagnosed. He's going off to summer camp, 90 degrees of heat, and he wants to wear 3 layers of pants and 3 shirts, and he wants to go in the pool like that. And we kept saying, well, you can't do
Wow.
this. It's dangerous. And his response was, it felt good. So
Mm.
that's when that quirky behavior became, that quirky behavior was probably always some sort of sensory issue, the repetitiveness of things. So as he got older, it became more pronounced and it became
Mm.
odd or weird, or, it just became dangerous. It became something that, okay, this really truly is a problem.
Wow.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
He,
and that's a
he was
lot as well.
adorable. He was adorable in that three-piece suit, though.
Right? I was trying to laugh in some of your responses, but I thought no, I shouldn't laugh.
You can laugh because, trust me, we had to laugh a lot
Oh,
of the time.
really?
And I remember Thanksgiving of that year, we gathered at my aunt's house and everyone's in jeans and warm sweaters. And here shows up this 4-year-old in a suit. And my cousin said, "Who brought the accountant?"
I think you're right, Kathleen. I think you have to laugh at things like this. And it's laughing at the situation.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you don't, it could eat
Becomes
away at
overwhelming.
yeah. It's a healthy reaction when you've got time to digest to the situation and the
Yeah.
experience. Now I have to say, Barely Visible, that's a thought-provoking title.
Good.
Mm.
It is definitely it draws you in.
Mm.
Now, I noticed this is not like a book, it's a memoir, if I'm correct,
It
right?
is a memoir, yes.
Okay, so I want to make sure P English literature listeners are aware that it is a memoir. But at the same time, I want to tackle something. You've had a tough road personally outside just working with your son.
Correct.
Could you share a little bit of that? And then, in addition, what, in your view, made your journey especially challenging? And then I want to flip that. What has made it a blessing, something positive? And I know that's a challenge, but a mom that's as resilient as you are,
Mm.
I mean, you've got a 25-year-old son who's functioning, who's doing some great things. I mean, with what you just shared with us. I mean, there's some blessings in that. Could you just kind of share?
Yeah, wow, that was a lot you just threw at me.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
it's
just
a lot,
No,
actually.
no, no,
okay,
no.
okay.
It's so, you said that I had a tough road. I don't think that my road was any tougher than any other parents simultaneously with this diagnosis, this coming to this realization of our son being on the spectrum, which at the time we didn't even realize was the spectrum.
Mhm.
We just knew he had this disability. His father and I were also going through a divorce.
Mm.
So
Mm.
Wow.
here is this child who is in need of our assistance.
Attention.
Here
Yeah.
are two parents that are in need of an education, and here are also two parents who are splitting their lives.
Mm.
And there's a lot of anger, and so real life was swirling around us.
Mm.
But thankfully, having our son face these challenges forced us to get on the same page and say, okay, we have to put our differences aside because this child needs us
Hmm.
as a united front. And I will say to this day, if something were to happen to me today and my husband wasn't available, my mother or any of my siblings weren't available, or my closest friends, I could call him. No, even if they were available, if something were to happen to me today, I could call my ex-husband and say, I need your help. And he would be here in a heartbeat. And that is because of raising this child together. So there is one blessing that came out of this adversity. And so, what were the challenges? Obviously, the challenges were our lack of awareness and certainly the lack of resources. We spend we went through life in a reactive fashion. We were constantly trying to mitigate every bad situation as it happened versus, being proactive, being aware, being proactive, going out and finding solutions so that
Mm.
we could prevent those bad situations from happening in the first place. So that was the biggest challenge. Yet that also turned into a blessing because now that my son has grown older, now that he's an adult, we are facing challenges together because, obviously I'm much more aware now, but there's still this, okay, we haven't faced this before. Let's do it together. I mean, my son is truly my best friend, and he sees me
Mm.
that way. And it's because we've had so many struggles along the way, and we never made him feel like it was his fault,
Hmm.
or, that he is different. We just made him feel loved, and we let him know mom and dad are doing the best that they can.
I think what I like the most about it is that you made the statement that you were in, and I even wrote this down, that you were in reactive mode,
Mhm.
and but you turned it to a proactive
Mm.
stance. And I think that is really important. And I do believe love is so significant and not looking at looking at the individual, embracing them and not their issues. You know what I mean?
Right.
We could work with the issues. They just need to know loved and that they can own their own identity.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you bring that up. My son has a lot of repetitive behaviors. There are things that he does every day, repeatedly, and he does them in the same order. He does them in the same, everything about it is repetitive. And when he was younger, he used to say things repeatedly. And the one and only therapist who we eventually found that was able to help us, she said, well, he has a vocal tic. And we're like, he's got Tourette's. And, Tourette's isn't necessarily somebody that's walking around cursing. It's this repetitive.
Right.
And that's part and parcel with being on the spectrum is having this vocal tic. So the one phrase that stuck from the time he was 7 years old until this day is, "Love you, Mom." And when a
Mm,
kid's 7 years old, you think, I'll never get tired of hearing those words. And
mm,
trust me, there were points where he was saying, "Love you, Mom," reflexively. Like he would be in
mm,
trouble for having done something and he'd say, "Love you, Mom." And I quickly caught on. But now that he is an adult and now that we are so close, that "Love you, Mom," he's not afraid to say it in public in
Yeah.
front of people. "Love you, Mom. Thank you for everything you're doing for me." And, that bond has just gotten stronger.
mm. Oh, wow, this is such an amazing. I've been enjoying your answer to these questions, and I love the beautiful story you told of the bond that comes out of this diagnosis. I mean, this is two parents who are in the process of divorcing. Something is about to happen in the family. There's about to be a breakup, and something pop up through the child, and you're now forced to come together. You just have to, ignore all of the differences and just, ignore everything whatsoever is going on and just come together, unite as one to tackle this issue that is on ground. That's a beautiful one, really. And I was supposed to ask you about feedbacks and reviews, but there's a lot of questions that comes to my head as you were answering those previous questions. One of which is I wanted to ask you, what kind of feedback have you gotten so far since the book has been published? That's number one. And again, how do you feel after the publication of this book? Do you feel in any way maybe relieved, maybe happy, maybe excited, fulfilled, satisfied? What are the kind of feeling that comes off from you writing this memoir? And also want to go back now to your son. Is he aware that you've written a book about him? And how does that also make him feel as a person? Has he read it? What was his reaction to your book, if in any way? I would love this answers, really.
So, for the most part, the response to my book has been overwhelmingly positive. I have gotten some negative responses, and initially, I think anybody that puts their story out there gets a negative response, and they're like, "Oh my God, they don't like my book." I had to force myself to develop perspective on that. Some of the negative responses were because my book didn't meet someone's expectation in the
Yeah.
sense that they were looking for a parenting guide. They were looking for something that would give them answers and solve their problems. And number one, I don't know why anyone would think that because it clearly states in my description that is not this kind of, or this is not that kind of book.
Yeah.
I wrote the story that people don't want to hear. I made every mistake possible. It's uncomfortable. It's embarrassing. It's so I didn't meet their expectations, and so they said, "Oh, well, this book is horrible." So, okay, I understand that. Secondly, though, this is a memoir. This is my truth.
Sorry.
No one can take that away from me. And I don't believe that my truth is open for dissection and
Honestly
assessment.
speaking, I love that.
So some people were judging me as a mother. "You're a horrible mother. You didn't do enough to help your son." And at first, I got really upset by that. But then I realized that that kind of response lends credence to my story. I touched a nerve, and a nerve should be touched. I didn't do everything right, but I put it out there. I'm putting it out there so that the next parent will do the right things.
Mm.
So it took me a while to gain perspective on the responses. I try not to look at them anymore, but for the most part, it's been pretty positive. Um, as far as my son is concerned, yes, he knows I wrote the book. It took me 9 years to write this book, so he
Wow.
definitely knew that this was going on. He has not read it. His feeling is, well, I lived all that. Why do I need to read about it too?
Mm.
But he has been hugely supportive. He's like, "You got this, Mom, and I'm really proud of you for having done this. And, it's going to do really well. And if it doesn't, it doesn't matter because you wanted to do this." And I think that response comes out of, all those years that we supported him. He all he wanted to do was play baseball. And it cost us tens of thousands of dollars, but it was good for him.
Mm.
Mhm.
It encouraged him to follow the next dream, which now is modeling. That is not a cheap endeavor. So, he has just been hugely supportive, and I'm so grateful to him for that.
You know what I find very interesting is that in the midst of this storm of your life, there were so many character building moments, not just for you as a mom, an individual, but for your son.
Absolutely.
But in addition to that, and even your ex-husband, there's this huge foundation that seems very, very supportive moving
Yeah.
forward. And I like hearing that. And so, yes, we're all going to get a sense of bad reviews and positive reviews, but I like how you're looking at it introspectively for yourself and your journey moving forward. And I think that's a very positive way to look at it.
Yes, thank you. And that brings me back to the other question that Peter asked. Is there a sense of relief? I don't kind of know because I'm a creative, and having finished the book was a huge letdown because I want the process of doing it was fun for me.
Yeah.
But these connections that I've made, I didn't realize until after the fact, and people started coming to me and saying, "Thank you for having done this. It's giving me a better understanding of my own son. I'm sharing it with people I know who could benefit from that." I didn't realize just how much I needed that, how much I needed the connection and the support. And as far as publishing a book is concerned, that's been kind of, like I'm not all that excited about it because I didn't write it to sell millions of books. I wrote it to touch people.
Yeah.
And I think it was just something I had to get out. I had to stand up and acknowledge I have been living this life. I was living a lie for a long time. And now I'm taking ownership of it.
We touched on some beautiful positives, but in the circumstances moving forward, the aspect of the unknown, is there anything that like might set fear in you?
I don't know that it's fear necessarily, but I worry that my son will never achieve the level of happiness and success that he deserves, or that, any of us deserve. He has said many times, "It's not fair. I didn't ask to be born this way." And he's right. It's not fair. He did not request to be different than all of his peers. And in today's world of the internet and social media, the level of competition is far greater than it ever was. And when you start from a point of being different, there's only so far you can go before you're counted out. So I'm fearful that opportunities that he should have a crack at will automatically go away because he's different. So he's going to be first one counted out. So I think that's my biggest fear, without question.
Wow, that is such an amazing one, really. That is such a pulling one. And I've been enjoying this interview so far, really. It's been so fun and so beautiful to me. And I would like you to raise, because I just realized I haven't asked that. I would like you to raise the book to the camera if you have a copy there with you. We've been engrossed in the story that we forgot to ask for what it looks like. And that's a beautiful one. Was that an actual photo taken, or it was designed by graphic designer?
Well, I am a graphic designer, Peter.
Oh,
So yes, I
fantastic.
designed the cover of the book. This is a picture of my son when he was 10.
Mm,
And initially I wasn't going to use this photo, but I realized it ties to a key chapter in the book
mm,
where it was that climax moment when we realized there's something really wrong here. We happened to be away on vacation at the beach, And that week, actually took this picture that week. And what was perfect about it was obviously that you don't see his face, because like I said, he wanted to remain
Right,
anonymous.
privacy, yeah. Hmm.
And initially, my publisher was like, "Well, we don't let any authors design their own covers." And I said, "Oh, well, here, let me show it to you." We were on a Zoom call. Let me show it to you. And she went, "Oh, well, send it to me." And they came back and said they would like to use my cover. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm so happy that the face of my book is representative of so
Character.
much about the story.
That's amazing. Even relates to the protagonist as well, which I think it's very important. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Yeah. Now I would also like to ask you, on the flip side, what's your biggest hope, either for your son or for family working a similar part? And also, did writing this book change the way you remember or interpret some of your past experiences, even anyway?
Without question, I hope my son finds his place, that place where he's passionate about what he's doing, where he's looked upon as an asset. He's valued for what he brings to the table. Um, all along I have tried, as a child, as a parent, all you want to do is protect your child, but he's an adult now, and I need to take my hands off the wheel. I need to give him the confidence to be able to say, this is who I am. I have these limitations, but I also have these abilities. And if you could do these things for me, life's going to be great for all of us.
Mm.
So my biggest hope is that he will find his voice, that he'll have the confidence to self-advocate.
Mm.
I have to give him that choice to disclose his disability and potentially meet with a negative response, or not disclose it and potentially make a mistake that will meet with a negative response.
Well,
So
mm,
yeah, that is, and also too, this may sound naive, but I hope that the world will reach a place. The autism spectrum has become so broad. Everybody walks around saying we're all on the spectrum, which, is kind of true. We're all imperfect human beings, and we all have strengths and weaknesses. And my hope is that there will come a day where there aren't labels, that we just take everybody for who they are and learn to navigate everyone with patience and acceptance. Like I said, it took me 9 years to write this book, and it wasn't 9 continuous years of writing. It was making notes here,
Yeah.
writing chunks there. And portions of that were done in real time. When my son's 16 years of age, I'm sitting at a baseball game writing, or,
Hmm.
and so my perception of what was happening then, I think, was very accurate.
Mm.
But there was all those early years where, I was going back, living in the past, trying to recall the details of certain events. How did I feel in those moments? How did I react?
Mm.
And so, through the course of writing this book, I asked myself many times, is all this time that I'm spending living in the past, is it impacting my perception of what is happening now? Is
Mm.
it impacting it negatively? Am I not being the best mother to my son because I am hyper focused on his 4-year-old self? On the flip side, I think, did all that time spent, evaluating what happened in the past, maybe it enabled me to see him more accurately in the present. And, okay, I remember now that when he was 4, he did this, or when he was 7, he did that. Oh, I see a trend here. He's 16 now, and I see that same behavior. And I remember now how I handled it then. I'm not going to do that this time.
Mm.
So I hope that answers that question. But it was this weird space I was in for a long time, being in between present moment and the past.
Out of curiosity, with the memoir Barely Visible, do you have any other works that you are currently authoring or that you plan on doing?
My son and I have talked quite a bit about working on something together. His perception of his disability and how he navigates life and how the world sees him, it would be of tremendous value to other young adults on the spectrum. He has a difficult time communicating the thoughts in his head, though. So, I've been his I know him better than anyone. I've been his interpreter for 25, almost 25 years now. So we have said, we need to do something together, and we have brainstormed a bunch of ideas. We're trying to land on what that looks like. So that has not begun. I've just started on a children's book that comes out of a lesson that I wanted to teach my son early on. And I thought, oh, if I could do this, if I could make this book successful, there are so many other lessons. So I could see that becoming a series. And I also have notes going for a novel. But I'm still parenting this young adult. I have a full-time job. I'm trying to sell a current book, and I have a life partner who, he needs some attention too. So, all these things are slow moving, but hopefully they will, reach that point where they can move ahead full steam.
Mhm.
That's an amazing one to know, really. Thank you very much for sharing. And I must say, this is such a lovely and a great one. Just in case we have some viewers who are currently watching this interview and would love to get a copy of Barely Visible, on what platform is it available on for purchase?
Well, it's available in all the obvious places, Amazon, Barnes and Noble bookstores, and website. You can get it at Walmart. I know they have Walmart in the UK.
Yeah.
It is available from just about every local bookstore. If it's not in their store, it's on their website. So please, if you have a local bookstore that's your favorite, please support them because they are so important to our communities. People
Yeah.
Mhm.
don't realize.
Yeah.
And so if you do get a copy of my book, please leave a review because that goes so far towards spreading awareness. And really, that's what this is about. It's about spreading awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Kathleen Somers' book directly on Amazon and Barnes& Nobles on our website and also on other platform. I also left link to our social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Kathleen, for accepting the invitation to come on and talk about your impressively written Barely Visible. And also this conversation is so educative, it is so inspiring, it is so heavy, it's quite interesting and quite fun. And I'm hoping that viewers, even including myself, would love to pick up the book and read Barely Visible. So thank you very much for joining us. This is so impressive, and thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Peter, and you too, Cindy. This has been a pleasure, and I so appreciate your time and giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about our story. It's a work of heart, and
Yeah.
I hope that the message gets out there that regardless of who you are, we all have imperfections, and we all need to be accepted for who we are. So, thank you.
And I would like to also say thank you for being an advocate for your son. And your book is actually going to be an arsenal for a tool for people to pick up and learn because you've opened up a world to them that they might have only had a glimpse in. And believe it or not, it's a self-help book,
Yeah.
memoir.
Yeah.
Absolutely, without question.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.